Did you ever have that weird, wonky dream that just doesn't make any sense to you and you can't make heads or tails of it? Well, that's exactly what this video is about today. Dreams. I want to go all the way back to the book of Genesis. I think, specifically Sorry, I'm outside today, again. It's a nice day. I mean, it's windy, but it's a nice day. It really is a nice day. I think it's 38 to... Okay, chapters 37, 40, and 41. I want to go over a couple of things. I'm going to skim through them a little bit because in a future video, I'm going to run back. I'm going to go back to Joseph. I'm going to talk about Joseph again. But today's video is about the topic of dreams. So that's what I want to discuss. I can't really think of anything off the top of my mind necessarily, but I know there have been times where I've just had that one dream where I could be doing some of the craziest, outlandish things that don't make any sense. And then I wake up. But before I elaborate further on that, I want to read the verses so I can help explain myself and what I mean by this. So in Genesis 37, this was when Joseph was 17 years old, Jacob's son. I'm pretty sure he was the youngest. Or I don't think he was the youngest. I think he was the second youngest. I'm not sure. I don't remember. But Joseph had dreams. God gave Joseph dreams, and he told them to his family, and his brothers were jealous of him because Jacob, his father, favored him. His brothers became jealous of him, and that's when they sold him off, I think, to an Egyptian, and then he worked for the Pharaoh. So, yeah, Joseph was 17 years old, and his brothers hated him. But this is what I want to talk about. Genesis 37:5, starting from 37:5, says, "Now Joseph had a dream, and when he told it to his brothers, they hated him even more. He said to them, 'Hear this dream I have dreamed. Behold, we were binding sheaves in a field.'" Sheaves are basically bundles of wheat, hay, stuff like that. "And behold, my sheaf arose and stood upright. And behold, your sheaves gathered around it and bowed down to my sheaf." His brothers said to him, "Are you indeed to reign over us? Or are you indeed to rule over us?" So they hated him even more for his dreams and for his words. Then he dreamed another dream and told it to his brothers and said, "Behold, I have dreamed another dream. Behold, the sun, the moon, and 11 stars were bowing down to me." But when he told it to his father and his brothers, his father rebuked him and said to him, "What is this dream that you have dreamed? Shall I and your mother and your brothers indeed come to bow ourselves to the ground before you?" And his brothers were jealous of him. But his father kept this saying in mind. Remember, Jacob has experienced stuff with God alone, personally. So it makes sense, especially being a father, that he would keep this saying in mind. So that was Joseph's dream about coming to power. That was the sign of it, that Joseph would come to power and his family would bow down to him. So, long story short, to sum up how Joseph gets here, he got sold to the Egyptian. He ended up working for, I think it was a Pharaoh or Potiphar. He ended up working for Potiphar. Potiphar gave him command over basically everything in his house. He didn't worry because he knew God was with him. Potiphar had a wife, and Joseph was handsome in appearance and stature. Well, he was, I think the Bible specifically says he was handsome in form and appearance. And Potiphar's wife wanted to sleep with Joseph. She kept on asking him, sleep with me, sleep with me." She was begging him, and he said no. Finally, she grabbed his cloth, said, "Sleep with me." He said no, and he ran out the house. So Potiphar's wife had his cloth, and then she told it to the men of the house, and basically saying, he tried to sleep with me, stuff like that. He grabbed hold of me, which obviously she was lying. When she told this to Potiphar, Potiphar was angry and put Joseph in prison. So now that we have all of that out the way, When Joseph was in prison, he was given charge over basically the people in the prison. The guard gave him charge. And he didn't care about what Joseph had charge over, or he didn't care about the things that Joseph did, because he knew that God was with him. And what Joseph did, God made it succeed. So, the cupbearer of the king of Egypt, the Pharaoh, and the wait, I'm gonna get it. I know it was the cupbearer. Oh, the chief baker. There we go. The cupbearer and the chief baker committed an offense to Pharaoh, and Pharaoh convicted them and put them in prison. And the guard gave Joseph charge over the cupbearer and the chief baker. One day, they dream, and in chapter 40, this is what it says. And one night they both dreamed, the cupbearer and the baker of the king of Egypt, who were confined in the prison, each with his own dream, and each dream with its own interpretation. When Joseph came to them in the morning, he saw that they were troubled. So he asked Pharaoh's officers who were with him in custody in his master's house, "Why are your faces downcast today?" They said to him, "We have had dreams, and there is no one who can interpret them." And Joseph said to them, "Do not interpretations belong to God? Please tell them to me." So the chief cupbearer told his dream to Joseph and said to him, "In my dream there was a vine before me, and on the vine there were 3 branches. As soon as it budded, its blossoms shot forth, and the clusters ripened into grapes. Pharaoh's cup was in my hand, and I took the grapes and pressed them into Pharaoh's cup and placed the cup in Pharaoh's hand." Then Joseph said to him, "This is the interpretation. The 3 branches are 3 days. In the 3 days, Pharaoh will lift up your head and restore you to your office, and you shall place Pharaoh's cup in his hand as formerly when you were his cupbearer. Only remember me when it is well with you, and please do me with kindness to mention me to Pharaoh, and so get me out of this house. For I was indeed stolen out of the land of the Hebrews, and here also I have done nothing that they should put me into the pit." When the chief baker saw that the interpretation was favorable, he said to Joseph, "I also had a dream. There were 3 cake baskets on my head, and in the uppermost basket there were all sorts of baked food for the Pharaoh, but the birds were eating out of the basket on my head." And Joseph answered and said, "This is the interpretation. The 3 baskets are 3 days. In 3 days, Pharaoh will lift your head from you and hang you on a tree, and the birds will eat the flesh from you. On the 3rd day," and this is the prophecy, these are the dreams fulfilled. "On the 3rd day, which was Pharaoh's birthday, he made a feast for all his servants and lifted up the head of the chief cupbearer and the head of the chief baker among his servants. He restored the chief cupbearer to his position and placed the cup in Pharaoh's hand. But he hanged the chief baker as Joseph had interpreted to them. Yet the cupbearer did not remember Joseph, but forgot him." So they both had dreams. Both of them were signifying 3 days in which what the Pharaoh was going to do to them. The cupbearer, the cupbearer, the Pharaoh was going to raise back into his high position, and the chief baker, the Pharaoh was going to hang. So, speaking of the Pharaoh also has dreams. In Genesis 41, I'm gonna find the verse. Here we go. So, these are the dreams that he had. After 2 whole years, Pharaoh dreamed that he was standing by the Nile River. And behold, there came up out of the Nile 7 cows, attractive and plump, and they fed in the reed grass. And behold, 7 other cows, ugly and thin, came out of the Nile after them, and stood by the other cows on the bank of the Nile. And the ugly thin cows ate up the 7 attractive plump cows, and Pharaoh awoke. And he fell asleep and dreamed a second time. And behold, 7 ears of grain, plump and good, were growing in one stalk. 7 ears of grain is, think of wheat. Think of wheat that grows. It's growing in a cluster. They all look healthy. And behold, after them sprouted 7 ears, thin and blighted by the east wind, swished around. And the thin ears swallowed up the 7 plump, full ears, and Pharaoh awoke, and behold, it was a dream. So in the morning his spirit was troubled, and he sent and called for all the magicians of Egypt and all its wise men. Pharaoh told him his dreams, but there was none who could interpret them to Pharaoh. Then the chief cupbearer said to Pharaoh, I remember my offenses today. When Pharaoh was angry with his servants and put me and the chief baker in custody in the house of the captain of the guard, we dreamed on the same night, he and I, each having a dream with his own interpretation. A young Hebrew was there with us, a servant of the captain of the guard. When we told him, he interpreted our dreams to us, giving an interpretation to each man according to his dream. And as he interpreted to us, so it came about. I was restored to my office, and the baker was hanged. So the Pharaoh sends and calls for Joseph, and Joseph interprets his dream. Joseph answered Pharaoh, it is not me. God will give Pharaoh a favorable answer. Then Pharaoh said to Joseph, behold, in my dream, and he repeats his dream. Then Joseph said to Pharaoh, the dreams of Pharaoh are one. God has revealed to Pharaoh that what he's about to do. The 7 good cows are 7 years, and the 7 good ears are 7 years. The dreams are one. The 7 lean and ugly cows that came up after them are 7 years, and the 7 empty ears blighted by the east wind are also 7 years of famine. It is as I told Pharaoh. God has shown to Pharaoh what he is about to do. There will come 7 years of great plenty throughout all the land of Egypt, but after them will arise 7 years of... low battery. There will come 7 years of great plenty throughout all the land of Egypt, but after them will arise 7 years of famine. And all the plenty will be forgotten in the land, and the plenty will be unknown in the land by reason of the famine that will follow, for it will be very severe. And the doubling of Pharaoh's dreams mean that the thing is fixed by God, and God will shortly bring it about. So he said, now therefore let Pharaoh select a discerning and wise man and set him over the land of Egypt. Let Pharaoh proceed to appoint overseers over the land and take 1/5 of the produce of the land of Egypt during the 7 plentiful years. And let them gather all the food of these good years that are coming and store up grain under the authority of Pharaoh for food in all the cities, and let them keep it. That food shall be a reserve for the land against the 7 years of famine that are to occur in the land of Egypt, so the land may not perish through famine. So this is when Joseph ends up rising to power, and the famine came about. It actually happened. And Pharaoh gave charge to Joseph. And he gave him charge over the overseers. He gave him charge necessarily over the land of Egypt. So people from all around the earth, remember, this was back then. The earth was much smaller than it is now. Probably maybe even 50,000 people, I don't know. But people from all around the world, around them obviously, and even from afar, came to receive food from Egypt because Egypt had lots of goods stored up. It was as Joseph said, it came about. And I love that Joseph also said, and this is what helps my interpretation or my analysis. He brings up God. He says, it is as I told Pharaoh. God has shown Pharaoh what he's about to do. He also said, do not interpretations belong to God, to the cupbearer and the chief baker? And it was obviously God who gave Joseph these dreams and showed him what he's going to do. And so I want to start from 37, Joseph's dreams. This was when he was young. That was already prophesied. He said that he was going to rise to power and his family would bow to him. That happened. He rose to power and his brothers came to him seeking food. The chief baker and the cupbearer, their dreams were interpreted as 3 days, and what the Pharaoh would do to them once the 3 days come. prophesied. So it was as said. The chief baker had a dream that he had baskets, and on the uppermost basket, the birds were eating out of the fruits on his head. 3 days, the Pharaoh hanged him, and the birds were eating out of his flesh. And the cupbearer, 3 vines, and he was pressing grapes into the cup and giving it to Pharaoh. And lo and behold, 3 days later, he was restored to his original high power. And then Pharaoh. This came to be about because his dream was about the famine. And Joseph told him about the famine and also gave him instruction from God. He gave him instruction as to what to do when this comes. And guess what? The famine came. So, what dreams have to do with this whole thing is I want you to look at the context of the dreams. Dreams sometimes might not make any sense whatsoever. But I believe that even the most wackiest, wonkiest dreams I believe that they can have their own meaning, their own significance. Maybe some more important than others, maybe some less important than others. If we look at the fact, now I think that the more realistic dream out of all of these is the cupbearer, because he actually had a vine with grapes. He was pouring out grapes and he gave it to the Pharaoh, and that's literally what happened. But the cake baskets wasn't so clear as to what it necessarily was. It was his head. And I find the weirdest dreams that I find about this is Joseph's comes in second, but the first is definitely going to have to be Pharaoh's dreams. I want to talk about Joseph's first because in the dream, sheaves, bundles of hay are being personified. His sheath was upright and the other ones are bowing. We know that a sheaf doesn't actually bow. It's just flat or it's upright. But he's personifying it because it has a deeper meaning behind it. The same thing for Pharaoh's dream with the cows and the reeds. And the ears. Not the reeds, the ears. So 7 plump, attractive cows and 7 thin cows. The thin cows eat the other attractive cows. Last time I recall, I don't think cows eat cows. And I don't think ears of wheat can eat ears of wheat. You see what I'm saying? It may not make a whole bunch of sense. Now, I know that we have had some crazy dreams out there. It could be a dream where you're in the jelly fields trying to catch jellyfish with SpongeBob. I don't know. But I believe that each dream is given to us for a specific purpose. Some may even be for just a small, short moral meaning. Just something small to tell you, a small lesson that has to be learned. Now, obviously, God can also speak to you through dreams. God does speak to us through dreams, and the dreams that you know he's really speaking to are the ones that are kind of specific. The ones that you are so stuck on. The ones that you want to understand, but you can't really, which is why you go to God. Now, I am not going to exclude the devil from this because I know the devil can insert dreams into our minds. But I don't necessarily think that he's the one to throw the wonky dreams in our heads. So the whole point of this is I believe that each dream has a purpose. Even ones that are given from the devil, I believe that the dreams do serve a purpose. And I believe that it's also important to interpret these dreams because you may not know as to whether or not it's from God or the devil. So it's important to have discernment. And if you do not understand, if it is too challenging for you then go to God and ask him about that dream. Again, it may not have even been something that's significant. Maybe it's just a placeholder. Maybe it's just something that was thrown at you from all the stuff that was cluttered in your mind in a day and just made into a dream. But I remember watching this video about dreams a while back, and it was talking about dreams, necessarily the horror, the scary dreams, the dreams where you're running away from something. And I know we've all had those dreams where the thing whatever's chasing us is running on turbo, and we can never seem to get anywhere. We're moving in place and we can't run. However, the thing that's moving fast, or the whatever it is, the murderer or something, it never seems to catch up to us. But I know that those dreams can also mean something much deeper. Like for instance, those dreams can mean that you may be running from something. You may be running from something and you're not facing your fears. You see, the thing is, that thing can never really catch up to you, but you don't really seem to be moving because you're trying to move away from something that's just going to be there. So you have to face your fear. You have to come to your fear and you have to face it. Many other dreams have many other different interpretations, and I know there are also, you could go really deep and in depth with this. That's not the point, because I know there are a lot of other dreams that have something to do with trauma, childhood trauma, and those are definitely something that I suggest you consult with God. Ask him what this means and what am I supposed to learn from that. But again, I'm not going to go there. I'm not going to go too far. The whole point of this is the whole point of this is about dreams. But I do believe that each dream has its own significance, maybe some more significant than other, for sure. But even in the wacky dreams, I feel like, even a dream where you feel like everything is going right and everything is going good, maybe you're looking for something good. Maybe you're looking for something good to happen. It just won't happen. Or a dream where you're finally at peace, or maybe you're on vacation. Maybe that could be a sign you're going on vacation. Or it could be a deeper meaning. It could be a sign that you're looking for that peace. You're looking for a break. You're looking for rest. Dreams are another interesting part of the human body, and there's something that's really weird for us, especially because sometimes we cannot explain them, sometimes we have trouble interpreting them, and sometimes they may not make sense. So, that being said, I encourage you, if you have a dream, and if you're curious to know if it has any significance, if it has any importance whatsoever, and if there's just something that you feel like you should be knowing from that dream, if it's something that you feel like might be substantial in aiding you to somewhere, maybe even taking a leap of faith or moving further with God, talk to God. Talk to God. Ask him for knowledge, wisdom, and insight. Ask him to help you interpret these dreams and find their understanding. Because I personally believe that dreams do have meanings. Even the crazy ones. Even the crazy ones. And again, I will repeat myself. That being said, Satan, the enemy, does send dreams. He does give you dreams. Especially when you're praying out loud for something that is very, very vulnerable. A very vulnerable sentence and a very vulnerable prayer. Satan will listen and he'll send things your way. And that's why it's important to have discernment, to be able to interpret things between good and bad, to know which one is good and which one is bad. And again, if you do not understand, if you are having trouble understanding the dream or interpreting it at all, go to God. Run to his book, because his book has answers. And even look at the dreams. Look at the dreams of Joseph. All of these dreams had interpretations by God. He said, do not interpretations belong to God? And all of these dreams came to be about, no matter how crazy or wonky they sounded. The last thing that I want to point out, remember, you can't, it's not like I'm visually projecting a dream to somebody. I can only tell somebody about my dream. So think about the context, the historical context about this. Joseph was speaking. He was talking to Pharaoh about his dream. And Pharaoh interpreted what he was saying. He got insight from what he was saying. He said, can we find a man like this in whom is a spirit of God or of the gods? So he knew that Joseph was speaking. What Joseph was saying had sense, had some sense in it. He knew what he was saying had knowledge in it. And he trusted in him. He also trusted in God. So think about this. Pharaoh had faith in Joseph's words and believed that they will come to pass, because it says, behold, the famine came about. The 7 good years, the plentiful years came, and then the 7 years of famine came about. And Joseph said that the reason that you were sent 2 dreams, Pharaoh, is because they are fixed by God, meaning that this is going to happen soon. So understand that certain dreams God may be sending you because these are things that are going to happen most likely in the future, things that God is going to play out. Who knows? But that was my video for today. Thank you all so much for listening. If you haven't already, please consider subscribing to my channel, hit that like button, and comment down anything that you would like to know. And if there's any questions that you have about this, maybe even dreams, feel free to comment below. I may be able to give you an answer. I may not be able to give you an answer. Who knows? But thank you all so much for watching. God bless you all, and I hope you have an amazing day. Oh, and it's spring. Go outside. Spend some more time with God out in his beautiful world, out in nature. Please. I love you all, and I'll see you later. Amen.